This is Martin Giles of the Guildford Dragon News, and today I'm with John Marsh, who's going to be the Labour candidate in the forthcoming Tillingbourne by-election. Good afternoon, John. Thank you for giving your time to the Guildford Dragon.
Hello, Martin. Absolute pleasure.
And you're due to stand for election that's going to be held on October the 20th, Thursday, October the 20th, for the Tillingbourne Ward in Guildford Borough Council.
Yeah, correct.
So why have you put yourself forward?
Well, first of all, I live within the ward, so I live in Abinger Hammer, and I felt like an opportunity to have a local candidate for a local by-election. Second, there is something just about national events at the moment with the economy, energy crisis, cost of living, which for me replicates down to each of us where we live. And third, I just feel there is some real inaction by our council at this time. If I look in on the Lib Dem and Residents Coalition at the moment, been in for 3 years, and I just am feeling a worsening of public services and compassion.
Okay, can you think of any particular examples that made you think that?
Look, if I look at a very local level, it has felt real inaction when we're being afflicted by national events such as when Thames Water managed to cut off our water for 3 days at a time every 6 months. I just don't feel there's a voice from council. Second, I was just looking on the website. If you Google review Guildford Borough Council, 90 people leave reviews, and it's got a 1.4 out of 5 for satisfaction with public services. And I know councils aren't necessarily going to get 5 out of 5, but that is chronically low. And third, and again, my family have experienced this, the complete worsening of bus services. So we've had a Spectrum Park and Ride removed. At Merrow, we've again had services removed. So it just feels day in, day out, this worsening of public services, Martin.
Okay, but are they all borough council responsibilities?
Transport, yes, transport is a borough responsibility with Stagecoach, and it is just, again, this. I went on the resident side, and sorry, I don't mean to just call out and criticise, because there are many policies we would have in common. All these commitments to expanding services from the residents, and actually what we've experienced is a worsening. So quite plainly, it is a responsibility. It is also a responsibility of councils to have a voice. So even though one might not always be directly responsible for services, it's how you represent and influence and have a voice for those who live within the ward.
Okay, now you're a member of the Labour Party. How long have you been a member?
Gosh, 40 plus years now.
Okay, so you're an established member of the Labour Party.
I am.
Why do you think it's important to have a national party political affiliation in local politics?
I think there's a couple of reasons. I feel for those who are going to be voting, they can see a connection and a resonance from what they see nationally from a political party and what they should expect locally. So in my case, and obviously I would say this as a Labour Party member, I look at a leader who for me has integrity, cares, and is just really thoughtful. And I think it's reasonable that voters would then expect the same from their candidate at a local level. Second, there is a ripple through and a read through from policies. And we've heard from Lisa Nandy at party conference last week around the empowerment of local. And for me, then that is really critical. In contrast, and this is why it really does matter to understand national and local policy linkages, we've had the Conservative Party releasing the restrictions around fracking. And therefore, if I was going to be looking at my local candidate, I legitimately would be saying, is that a party I'd want to vote for locally when I look at their national policies?
Okay, well, you've made some points there, but don't you think there's a danger that by having national parties standing in local elections, that people get distracted and vote on national issues rather than local ones?
I think it is about understanding that correlation between national and local. All political parties, and I would say this for our local Labour Party, are built from the foundations up. They're all based around a local membership. Hence, the party coming to me, and again, I stood last time and I wanted to stand at a very local level. I'm the one member, I believe, who actually lives within this ward. So it's already grounded within what is happening at a local level. It is then the almost the culture and national policies and an understanding about how you again apply those in the most effective way at a local level. So the two can be in harmony and sync together, but everything will always emanate and flow from local upwards.
Okay, now you've mentioned some local issues, local to your particular ward there. What are the main issues that you've identified in Tillingbourne Ward that a borough councillor can help with?
So I've mentioned, and I'll move on fairly quickly from those which are more at a borough-wide level, how we influence providers into our wards, such as Thames Water. Second, public services do matter from Guildford Borough Council. They affect all of us in Tillingbourne, as they affect anybody else. I really do expect the minimum is that we've got a council that can actually deliver high quality public services, not those which score 1.4 out of 5. Then when you look at a very local level, we know within our villages, within Tillingbourne, that housing, as for anybody else, really matters. We also know that quality of our village life matters. Traffic is clearly a big issue for us living within Tillingbourne, and about how we can work with parish councils, for example, within Shire, to manage a lot of that car transport and also look at finding alternatives.
Okay, now what's your view? One of the main responsibilities for borough councils is planning. What's your view on the local plan for Guildford? After all, it has been very controversial.
Yeah, it certainly has been controversial, Martin, and it is not easy for an area such as Guildford to get this right. So I don't start this from a position of the local plan is all wrong, or we shouldn't have a local plan. It's absolutely critical. We should have a local plan. We do have an expanding population, and we have a real problem with affordable housing. So we need a local plan. There are parts of the local plan that make sense, and there are parts that don't. Last thing, the Labour Party, for whom I am representing, want is a lift and shift that we're going to be seeing in Wisley, potentially, of 2,500 houses just being pulled together by a big national developer. What we like to see are more carefully considered local developments with affordable housing and actually using local builders wherever possible. My view on the current local plan is we've just gone into this point of stasis. We've had the previous plan from the Conservatives, which had to be rightly overturned. The current administration with the Lib Dem and residents, to my mind, have been struggling now for over 3 years with the local plan, and people seem to be afraid to take decisions. We've just seen it over the last week with the Howard of Effingham school, which my daughters attended. And many years on, we've had no progress as to what should happen with that site. And it is in the end the responsibility for local councillors to lead and to take some decisions. And the local plan has to be an enabler for that, Martin, and it isn't quite there yet.
Okay, now you've mentioned Wisley, and of course, but you come from, you say Abinger Hammer, so you've got the luck to be if you like, to be protected by being in an area of outstanding natural beauty. But the residents in Wisley who are campaigning against this development don't have that protection. Don't you think they've got a point?
Yes, I do, and that's exactly my point. So I lived in East Horsley, where my children went to the local schools at the Raleigh and the Howard for 18 years before I moved 4 years ago into Abinger Hammer, and they absolutely do have a point. And I am saying, have a local plan. You need to brownfield as much as possible, and then where you are going to take some difficult decisions about where you have housing, it's the density of that housing, the volume of that housing, the infrastructure support that is provided for that housing, and it's feeling that that consideration is not taking place at this time. 240 houses being signed off in Horsley, and again, very little reference actually to how that will be done, quality of that housing, GP practice, infrastructure support. So you're right, we're very fortunate in Tillingbourne. We are quite protected, and therefore I recognise that responsibility as a Labour Party councillor will be to look after the interests of others as well. We have a wider responsibility.
Okay, now you also mentioned affordable housing. We've got, I believe at the moment, around 1,800 people on the housing list in Guildford. Isn't what they need more social housing? And if it is, if you agree with that, what would you be able to do and your group be able to do about that?
Yeah, I mean, Martin, it is absolutely right. And again, coming back to one of my earlier points, there can be many policy ambitions which all parties can align, and it's not all, and it is at the right time coming together to deliver those plans. Social housing, I'd like to think as an individual, I'm an influencer, a facilitator, and believe in finding consensus. And in that respect, it will be coming with other parties to find the consensual way to work out where we are going to provide that social housing. The North Street and Guildford Town Centre redevelopment plans have just been published finally, which is very welcome to have those plans. I haven't had a chance to look fully at them. I think there is something around that social housing within the Guildford footprint in particular. And then when we do come to approving housing plans from outside the town centre itself, we just cannot keep letting the big developers getting away with reducing the affordable housing, social housing commitment that they start off making and then never ever deliver on. And it is about ourselves collectively as councillors holding those developers to account.
Okay. Now, in the Surrey County Council election 2 years ago, in the similar area, in the Shear ward, what happened was the Conservative got in, but only it appeared because of a split vote of the opposition parties. Of course, this happens all the time under first past the post, and there's nothing unfair about it. That's the way that it works. But given that kind of result, do you agree with tactical voting?
I don't, Martin. Maybe you perhaps not surprised for me to hear that. To my mind, it is in the end democracy. You started off by saying in the end it is the right of everyone to have a party for whom they most align with and for whom they can vote. So I do believe in voting for the party you most believe in. Now there will be those who are looking to shift their votes, and if I had been voting for Conservatives, for example, I would want to find a party that I could feel could represent me as an individual and have the decency to listen to what my point of view will be as a resident. I'm really clear, Labour Party is a centre party. I think the Lib Dems and the residents for Guildford and the villages, and the Greens, who have come together at council level, they could take a view whether they wanted to have just stood one candidate. It wasn't the job of the Labour Party to do that. I genuinely believe we're providing an alternative at a time when there are many shifting votes. Okay,
but a lot of people vote against the party that they most dislike, don't they? And I mean that unfortunately that does seem to be the case. So for those people, tactical voting might seem a good idea, mightn't it?
It's tough because I mean I guess we're sometimes looking in on the more centre, left of centre with where those decisions could be made, and people are going to have to think around. Martin, I believe it is more who will I vote for that I believe will best represent my interest and be elected, and having to take a choice maybe over more than one party to do that. In the end, I genuinely believe myself and the Labour Party are providing a really positive option for voters from any party. And when one is left, and I'm going to take it the other way around, you could vote for the Conservatives with their friends who want to allow fracking, or you could vote for the current group of Lib Dems, Greens and residents for Guildford and the villages and take a judgment on, have you heard enough from them over where they've been in now for the last 3 years? And if you do consider, no, I haven't, then you've got a really clear alternative in myself and the Labour Party.
John Marsh, the Labour candidate for the upcoming Tillingbourne by-election, thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity, Martin.